Hey everyone, Ryan Young, KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, and I hope you're doing well. Today, let's talk about how an instructor training program works for our junior instructors. Because a good instructor is somebody who is guided through the teaching process, and that guiding you can interpret as teaching, you can interpret as disciplining, you can interpret as molding, right? All these kind of terms come to be when you're thinking about an instructor training program. Now, granted, most people who train jiu-jitsu don't have the benefit of having instructors that have gone through a formal instructor training process. So what do I mean by formal instructor training? So here at KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, we spend a lot of time with our instructors, right? First of all, you need people who want to be instructors because not everybody wants to be an instructor. Right? In fact, one of my best instructors at one time didn't want to be an instructor. And if you go to our website, kamajujitsu.com, you'll see his name is Michael Saito. He actually came to us as a black belt. And I took him out to lunch the first day that he'd come and when he joined. And this is new territory for us because we've never had a black belt from another school join us as a member. But he had relocated and all around great guy. I didn't know how great he was until a couple of years later. I've always known him to be a great guy, a cool guy, very, very nice guy, but levels above an ordinary person, in my opinion, at least for our school. I asked him at lunch, I said, what do you want to do? I go, you're a black belt. There's no more promotion for you or anything like that. He goes, I just want to train. And I said, okay, do you want to teach? No, I just want to train. Okay. So I asked him, are you sure? Because, a lot of times a black belt, doesn't matter where you come from, you tend to want to teach. You don't always want to teach. And, because I have blue belts, purple belts, brown belts who want to teach. And I teach them how to teach in our Dallas campus. And we have our Austin campus and where Professor Ken works with his junior instructors. And you have Dave Kama, who works with his instructors out in California. So I asked him and he says, no, don't want to teach. Okay, so he would just come to class, train, and he would just sit in any junior instructor's class. It didn't matter if at the time, because we had junior instructors that were blue belts that were teaching adult classes. But it didn't matter if it was a blue belt, purple belt, or brown belt teaching the class, or a black belt. He would just sit and watch, learn, and he would participate just like any white belt would, which kind of lends to that old cliche, white belt for life. And the reason why he would do that is because he's just trying to suck up all the knowledge that he can from us. He's trying to learn the KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu system. And I'm telling him, look, you're a black belt, learn our system, but don't substitute it for what you currently do. Now, if you do find that you have a concept that you do here, and you see the concept that we do here, at KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, if you find there's a conflict in it, learn them both, right? Learn this one now because you already know this one. And then from there, make your evaluation. Do you want to keep it or do you want to not? And you want to discard it, right? Or you can discard either one. So I tell you about when I joined Dave, I was a brown belt. But, I had trained with Howson, Horian, Hickson, Hoyce. But I had come into KAATARO Jiu-Jitsu, into Dave's studio, thinking to myself, I am going to do things the way Dave does them. If I don't do it his way, I'll learn to do it his way, and I will then jettison what I do. So a mount escape. I did mount escapes completely different from the way he teaches them. But I just told myself, when it does come to a point when we have something where I do it differently from the way Dave does it, I'm always going to do it his way. Now, it took me about 3 or 4 years to learn the entire system at that time to get to my proficiency that I was happy with. Now, we were always continuing to become more proficient, as Hickson says, to become more efficient, because that's what makes the jiu-jitsu better. It's not the evolving of jiu-jitsu as we see, where it starts to go toward different, completely different concepts. As an example, an evolution of classic Gracie jiu-jitsu is the De La Riva, which was actually invented decades ago. Ricardo De La Riva is an older guy. Is he a red belt now? I'm not sure. But that was his workaround, as I like to call it. If you find yourself not able to do a particular concept or technique, he developed his own workaround, hence a De La Riva. And then you have the Mendez brothers, I think it was them that invented the Berimbolo, which is different altogether. And you have other people that have invented different things. I know Nino Schembri, I think he had invented the Gogoplata, right? And you can go on and on and on about different things that people invent. Now, is it an actual invention, or was it in the canon of judo that was written by Jigoro Kano? A lot of stuff that we think is an invention is actually not an invention, right? There were footlocks, triangles, all that stuff was in there. But it got reintroduced as time goes on, because what happens is there's like an in vogue type of jiu-jitsu that people like to do. Anyway, Professor Mike just learned our system, and his jiu-jitsu continued its upward trajectory. He got really good, unbelievably fast, just by simply adding in the Kama Jiu-Jitsu concepts into what he was already doing. So that's a good story that I like to share with people, how he actually is our best black belt, outside of, Dave, of course. But it's just because he's been able to, he's just an avid, eater of jiu-jitsu. So about a year later, at a tournament, he was helping out some competitors. And after that, he told me, hey, Ryan, I want to start, teaching if that's possible. So I'm like, yeah, totally. So actually, I was about 6 months in. So he joined our instructor training program, and he comes to the Sunday instructor training sessions that we do. Either I do them or Dave does them. If Dave's in town, which is about once a month, he does them. Otherwise, I'll do them. He teaches classes now. And when he was in class with me, let's say he was attending my class, I would have him teach a particular concept. And then that's where we would make sure he knows it, fix the holes, because I'm right there to say, okay, no, you should do it this way instead. Bring him back, let's talk, let's teach you how to manage the clock, because you do need to know how to manage the clock. You need to know how to manage students. You need to know how to manage groups of students. All that stuff comes into play when you're an instructor. If you don't know that, then you have the situation where people come in, they warm up on their own, stretch on their own, whatever, for 3 to 5 minutes. And all right, guys, gather around. Let me show you how to do this armbar to triangle to omoplata setup, right? You show that. Okay, you guys got it. All right, practice it with your partners. All right, guys, look at the clock and you go, okay, let's say you're 20 minutes in. All right, 40 minutes, rolling from now to the end of class. To me, that's not really teaching. That's more coaching. Coaching is good, but sometimes you need a teacher, an instructor, somebody who teaches over a coach. Now, you can say, well, Ryan, you're kind of splitting hairs here. Coaches are kind of teachers. Yeah, they kind of are, but a coach to me is less formal than is an instructor. Now, you can look at team sports, whatever. You can say, oh, no, well, there's no instructors. They're all coaches. Well, that's true, right? But I'm just thinking as far as jiu-jitsu goes. But coach and instructor, teacher largely are interchangeable, but for us, there is a difference. So one thing that, we want to make sure is that our instructors can not only teach you the art of jiu-jitsu, they can inspire you, okay? Which then leads me to a conversation that I had with another instructor who just got his purple belt. And he was a blue belt for probably about 4 years, which is very long. Technically and abilities-wise, he was at a purple belt level. But there always is that subjective criteria that every instructor has. Don't let any instructor fool you when they say they don't have a subjective criteria to granting a belt. They have the technical criteria, which a lot of people will test for belts, right? I know of some schools where they test for every belt. Okay. But what gets you in to be able to test, it's you passing a subjective criteria. They may be thinking your technique is ready, but you mentally, I'm not saying you're crazy or not, but there's something maybe mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever that they would like you to work on before they ask you to test. Because they know you're going to pass the test because you know the jiu-jitsu. So one of the things that I did was for one of my students, who's also an instructor, he's in fact one of my best instructors, phenomenal teacher. His jiu-jitsu is phenomenal too. But there were just some issues that I had that I wanted to be fixed. And I say fixed in that for the benefit of the school. But keep in mind that I'm always thinking about you. I'm always thinking about, if you haven't kind of figured that out about these videos and why I put them together, because, you know, we don't make any money off of this channel. It doesn't even cover our expenses, but that's not really the point. The point is that I want to help you, just like I want to help my own students. So this particular student, he had a few things that I wanted to add to his repertoire of being able to train well and teach well. One thing that I wanted to do was have him enter a competition. He had not entered a competition. Now, do we require competition? No, that's not our thing. I mean, but we do have students that compete, and they compete very well. It's not a requirement of ours, but for an instructor, I want my instructors to have competed at least once, preferably twice. And the reason is because how can you help a student who wants to compete or is competing and is falling short of his goal in competition if you've never done it yourself? You don't necessarily have to be good at it, but you have to have walked in his or her shoes for a period of time. And having my instructors enter a competition helps them to do that. They can fall back on their experience. Of course, if they were to compete prolifically, then they can really help somebody in their quest to compete. Since we're not a really competition-oriented school, it's never really been an issue. Because really, when you think about it, it's much harder to train hard in the academy than it is in a tournament, because the tournament is time restricted, right? 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. But it doesn't go longer than 10 minutes. Whereas in the studio, in the academy, you might have gone 30, 40 minutes until there is a submission. So I had this particular instructor enter a tournament. I told him, you need to. So he did. You know, he kind of pushed it back for a while, pushed it back as long as he could. Finally, he's like, all right, just get it done. So he went and got it done, and he wins a gold medal and with 2 submissions. And he lost one by points, but it was, you know, when you get up in age, then you don't have a ton of opponents you can go up against. Sometimes they'll make you go up against an opponent 2-3 times, especially if it's non-IBJJF. So in this case, it was a Jiu-Jitsu World League. I think the AGF does that as well, American Grappling Federation. Those are the tournament venues we tend to like to go to, only because, you know, a lot of you know my thinking on the IBJJF, but that's okay. That's neither here nor there. The fact is that he competed and he submitted his guy very quickly in the first round and didn't take the 5-minute rest and said, no, let's just get it over with. Went the second match, and that guy got on top of him and scored a bunch of points on him, and then time ran out and he lost that match due to points. And then I called him from the other side. So this is what a coach will do. Called him from the other side because I was watching another match on another mat, but I could see that student. So I called a student of mine, another instructor who was there. I said, you know, get him on the phone. Got him on the phone. He's, and I go, did you blow your energy out? He goes, yeah, I did. All right, you know, take your rest and do your job. Get it done. He said, okay, right, hang up. That was it. But that was a little pep talk that he needed to make him realize that he was good and he deserved to have a gold medal by submission. So what happened was he did that third match and then submitted the guy pretty quickly, rather. I mean, it didn't take the entire time, of course, but did submit the guy. So they went best out of 3 and submitted the guy, which is great. So that's one thing that I required that he did. The next thing that I required of him was that he needed to lose some weight. Now, who would tell you that? You know, somebody who cares about you will tell you that. Somebody who doesn't care about you won't say what they think you should do. But the difference is that I was holding his purple belt. And I had it waiting for him, and I even had cards, business cards made out for him that were purple, as I do for all my instructors, you know, whatever color belt they are. And I said, if you want it, come and get it. So he had to go down to 215 pounds from 235, which that's what he told me he was, but he was really 245. So it turned out he had to lose 30 pounds. That requires really a lifestyle change. And why would I do that? Well, because he's an instructor. And the instructor's job is to inspire, to motivate, to be an example for his students. One of the things that we like to do here is to get the best out of our members is to find out something they've always wanted to do, but have never been able to do it on their own. So what I do is I give a little push. And in this case, I gave a pretty big push. Because getting the purple belt with the red bar on it, the instructor, was a greater goal that he wanted. And that goal, that positivity, was bigger than the pain he had to suffer losing, in this case, 30 pounds. And guess what? He did it. He probably did it off the top of my head, maybe 3 to 4 months. But what he did was he changed his whole diet around, started to eat carnivore, and started to get rid of all the desserts, the sugars, the snacks, that stuff, and just start fasting as well. He got down to the weight, got close to it earlier, but then when I went to weigh him, he is 11 pounds up. Like, what's up? Well, it turns out it was one of those, he tried to do a quick fix to try to get to it, rather than change the things he needed to be there. Not to just touch it, to be there. And here we are, maybe a month later, and he's still walking around within a few pounds of that original weight, 215 pounds. I'm proud of him. He's doing spectacularly well. And his jiu-jitsu improved. Who would have thought, right? Anyway, that's a story of these two gentlemen that I wanted to share with you about the value and what I think an instructor needs to provide to his students. In this case, our instructors. Now, the level of expectation for instructors at Combat Jiu-Jitsu is higher than it is for members. But for good reason, because like I say, instructors need to be able to inspire. They need to be able to help somebody who is a member. They're members too, but they're members that have a little more responsibility on. In fact, members don't have any responsibility. There's no expectations. It's just, here are class times, come into class whenever you want to train. And the ones that are truly inspired to get better, they know they're going to train more. They're going to seek out more answers to questions they may have. They're going to see what they can do, all the things they can do to make themselves better so they can be better in jiu-jitsu. Because if they can be better in jiu-jitsu, you all know this, you'll be better in life. Because jiu-jitsu is what? A microcosm of real life. So that's my contribution to jiu-jitsu and why I think it's so important to have instructors that are inspirational, and why we train instructors differently than we do members, because they get the additional training. And I just thought I'd want to share that. Now, if there are other questions that you have, you can always put them on the videos. Please be sure to like and subscribe the video, because it does really help the algorithm, and it helps us show up on people's feed a lot more if there are likes. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Click on the bell if you want the updates when we create a new video. Otherwise, you can visit us at any of our campuses. We have Combat Jiu-Jitsu Dallas Fort Worth, which is in Flower Mound, which is the one I run. We have Combat Jiu-Jitsu Irvine, California, which is the one Dave Kama runs. And we have Combat Jiu-Jitsu Austin, which is run by Ken DeSilva. And you can also visit us online at combatjujitsuonline.com. If you want to help the channel out, go ahead and look in the notes, and if there's any products in there that you want to buy, please go and do so. It does help us, give us a little bit of cash to fund this expense of editing videos and all that kind of good stuff. But anyway, that's all I got for you. Take care. Happy training. Bye now.